So for those of you in the audience, those of you at home, two things. Please remember to vote November 7th, and please remember to encourage your friends, neighbors, and other residents of the city of Worcester to vote. We need an informed electorate, and that starts tonight. So I want to thank our candidates, thank our moderators, and turn it over to my friend, Mike McDermott, to take it away with the candidates.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, everyone. So we're going to start with 2-minute opening statements from each of the candidates. And for the first opening statement, I will go to Bill Coleman.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank the candidates for their commitment. We all did what we had to do. We went out, we collected signatures to get our names on the ballot. Those of us who are running for mayor, we chose to run for mayor in this upcoming election. This is a very unique time in Worcester. Every time is pretty unique in Worcester. You know, I've been watching this political race for quite some time, and I'm waiting for an opportunity to serve on the city council. I come with passion. I want to see a city that's clean, safe, and a city that fulfills the promise of America, and that promise is opportunity. And I simply ask that the people in this community give me a chance to serve on the city council, and if you so like, give me that opportunity to serve as your mayor. So I'm just going to leave it like that, and I'll see you in this debate. Thank you.
And next, Donna Colorio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Colorio, and I'm seeking to be your next mayor. I spent the last 4 years as vice chair of the city council, chair of parking and traffic, fixing decade-old issues on Clover Street, Upper Pleasant, and many more streets. After listening to residents' concerns about safety in the city, I am proud of my vote to support the police in the schools, which are important to build early positive relationships between students and police, body cameras, and ShotSpotter Connect. I will continue to vote to fully fund the police in order to ensure we have the proper amount of police in the city to compensate for our increase in population. I was proud to vote to keep the friendliest, lowest residential tax rate, knowing that the median income in Worcester is approximately $51,000, 39% lower than the state average, which is $84,000. Raising the residential taxes would be disastrous for the residents of Worcester, especially those on a fixed income. I am proud to vote against the CPA tax, which will cause hardship to many residents and businesses. As a lifelong resident of Worcester, I love this city. I've raised my 3 children in Worcester. I know Worcester is a great place to live and work. As a businesswoman in a family-run business, I understand the role small businesses play in our community. As a small business, I've provided thousands of jobs to our immigrant community. I am proud of my Albanian Italian heritage, and I know how difficult it is to land your first job in a new country, listening to my employees and others in our diverse community. My name is Donna Colorio, and I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
Okay, next statement, Guillermo Kramer.
Good evening. I'm Guillermo, and I'm a proud candidate for mayor and city council at large here in Worcester. Tonight, I stand before you with a fresh perspective, a bold vision, and a commitment to our city's next chapter. Worcester deserves a choice that breathes new life into our democracy, a choice that ignites civic engagement, and I am honored to be that choice. As a long-time resident who returned to Worcester in 2020, this city will always be my home. I learned English here, I grew up here, and I am now building my family here. In my role on the Human Rights Commission, I was unanimously appointed as the chairperson by my fellow members, a testament to the trust that they had in my leadership. During my tenure, I steered the commission through extensive public participation efforts, culminating in a well-crafted police body camera policy recommendation. My commitment goes beyond that. I've been the lead organizer for the citywide planning project, Now Next, the first one in over 40 years. I've had thousands of conversations with residents and small business owners, listening to their hopes and dreams for the next decade for our city. I'm running because Worcester deserves a leader who will stand up unapologetically and who will collaborate with all elected officials to ensure that our city continues to move forward. I believe the mayor should be the chief advocate for our residents, and I am dedicated to fulfilling that role. Tonight, I eagerly anticipate our conversation, and I'm excited to discuss the future of our beloved Worcester. Thank you for being here and for participating in democracy. On November 7th, I'm asking for 2 of your votes. Thank you.
Okay, and next statement, Christian King.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy to be here today. I want to thank the Worcester Research Bureau, Telegram and Gazette, Mechanics Hall, and the Worcester Educational Collaborative for hosting this. You know, I'm really proud to be sitting here before you today. And I want to say I'm not an insider. I'm not part of the status quo. Folks have thought I'm part of this machine. I'm clearly not part of that either. What I am is a representative of the people. My rise in the polls as an elected official has been community-based and focused. And I have intentional leadership. We are in chaotic times in this world. We do not have the luxury of business as usual or the status quo. I'm a social worker, father, coach, and mentor in this city. And it's through that lens that I'm able to critically analyze and have difficult conversations. Now, you'll hear tonight that we need balance. You'll hear tonight that my candidacy wants to move the city backwards. You'll hear the word divisive. You'll hear that we have to be together. But what does that mean? Balance for whom? Together for whom? I stand for the people. We have those difficult conversations in this city. You know, it's also been said by the Petty campaign that I'm focused on problems. Well, we have gaps in this society. We have gaps in this community, achievement gaps, economic gaps, gender gaps, housing gaps, racial gaps. And if we want to move the city forward, we have to be critically analytical and forward-thinking and intentional in how we vote. In how we vote. Not what we say, not that we can do more, but are we voting for more? I have a track record of doing exactly that. I come from humble immigrant beginnings, and I'm proud to sit here before you as an elected official and the next mayor of Worcester.
Okay, next, Joseph Petty.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank the Worcester Research Bureau and the sponsors for tonight's debate. I want to thank my fellow candidates for being here, running for office. I'm running for re-election for council at large and mayor after leading the city for 6 terms. I'm running for office because I want to keep the positive momentum of the city going forward. As it stands, I see a great city and a number of great accomplishments, including our Blue Space program, Polar Park, creating the Mayor's Mental Health Task Force. I'm a man of my word. When I first became mayor, I promised 4 schools to be built. Today we have 3 schools and 1 more set to open next year. I'm proud to say that I've earned our residents' trust, and the trust that will not take us backwards. Not only do I want to focus on streets, sidewalks, and safety in the environment, I also want to work on the balance. To move forward, we need collaboration. I've never been on the dissenting side of a 10-1 vote on main issues. Some may say I'm too moderate. However, it is important that an even-keeled leader is key to the city's success in welcoming all and ensuring that the diverse voices are heard. I believe my record is very strong. The fact that Worcester is considered the 8th safest city in America, according to the U.S. News, that did not come by accident. It's been through hard work that I have overseen and supported. I have supported Worcester's Green Plan, which will reduce our carbon footprint. I have also helped with ensuring that future developments are built in an environmentally suitable way to increase efficiency and reduce emissions. I have supported a reasonable inclusionary zoning ordinance, which hopefully will create more affordable housing. But this election is about Worcester's future. What kind of city do we want to be? I hope to continue to be mayor in pursuing the improvements of things that impact the city most now: affordable housing, mental health, environmental improvements, and advocating for rebuilding of Burncoat and upgrading the Worcester East Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question will go to Bill Coleman, and then we'll call off candidates for their responses. The first question is, due to the dual tax rate model, the setting of a new tax rate each year often turns into a battle between business owners and homeowners, each making arguments that taxes are too high. How would you take into consideration the concerns of both groups? What metrics would you look to inform your tax rate decision? Thank you. And you have 1 minute.
To know our history is to know what we can do in the future. In 1983, we had a single tax rate, $14 per thousand assessed. And then we went up to a dual tax rate. I think what we need to do today is we need to have more conversations in the community with the business community. Sometimes we have these conversations and not everybody's at the table. You know, what will it do? We know that people stop at our borders because their tax rates are $17 assessed value for both tax rates, as opposed to $35 assessed value. And I hate to get technical on things, but we have to have more conversations, and we have to make a game plan, like maybe say within 6 or 7 years, you know, we can move closer to a tax rate. But I don't like the timeline that the council always throws, because you can't do anything about it afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. And the first response is offered to Christian King.
Thank you. I'm all for a single tax rate, but just not on the back of our homeowners, not on the back of our veterans, folks on fixed incomes, folks struggling to pay the rent, not on their backs, not on the backs of folks coming into the workforce, not on the backs of the folks that are coming into our community from our 11 colleges and universities whom we want to stay here, and not on the backs of the folks, our essential workers that lifted us up during COVID. I think we can look at our budget. I think we can look at vacancy factors, contingency, free cash, and you know, really take a look at that. It's not business versus homeowners, but I can tell you what, our campaign's running strong in all parts of this city, every single part, because our message resonates. And since we've gained traction, big corporate interests have struck back, and they're trying to buy political influence so they can eliminate the dual tax rate, raise your property taxes at the expense of schools, roads, and city services. Every single year, Joe Petty has voted to tax you more.
Thank you. Joseph Petty.
This is an issue that I wish that we never, back in the 1980s when they did the split tax, should never happened. It's been a big mistake, and we're suffering from ever since. And I believe that we should push towards, we're almost going in the direction of a single tax rate, and we went backwards over the last few years, only because you need to be competitive. Because the residents are going to end up paying more taxes if you have less businesses here in the city of Worcester. So it's important that we attract business here, and I look at both sides, both sides of the issue, whether it be residents, whether it be businesses, and ask what's fair for both. And that's how I take my vote. And we can say I've raised taxes. Well, I think Donna Crowley might be the only one on the stage here tonight who votes for the lowest regional tax rate on a consistent basis. So we're pretty consistent over all the other councils, and we're not being the exact same, but so each council has raised the taxes, and if you want to make that argument. But again, it's an important issue that needs to be addressed, and going forward, you just look at the tax rates of both, make a fair decision, and both should be impacted. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Guillermo Kramer.
You know, I think I agree with the fact that we're in a really unfortunate position that has been placed on us since the 80s. The reality is that it does seem like it's a business versus residents conversation, and that's something that we need to make sure that we're curving. Worcester thrives on the small businesses that exist in this city. I'm thinking of Crust Bakery, Dorico's, Cristo's Pizza. Those are essential to our neighborhoods. They're essential to what we do. And so unfortunately, I don't see us closing that gap immediately, but we have to start having those conversations. And we have to figure out, how do we ensure that our small businesses are not breaking their backs? And I don't want to make sure that our residents are raising taxes, because our economy is in influx right now, and our residents don't need that. And so I really do believe that we have to look at this in a multi-lens view, and I think we need to work together in order to do it. But we need to get away from the narrative that it's business versus residents.
Donna Colorio.
Thank you. I'm just going to say that I will vote for the lowest residential tax rate, and I have since I've been elected. I've listened to thousands of residents, and they're concerned about their residential taxes. By raising the residential tax rate, there will be those in that community who will have to choose between food and paying their taxes. Worcester is not a wealthy community. Raising taxes at this time wouldn't be beneficial for the residents of Worcester. For a fair analysis, we should compare Worcester dual tax, split tax structure to other gateway communities. Worcester already has one of the smallest gaps between the residential and commercial tax rate compared to other mass gateway communities. We have many challenges in Worcester because we have a large population, we have low income, and we have a large tax-exempt college and social service agency. This amount of tax-exempt property causes a strain on Worcester's revenue structure. Some claim by closing the gap of a single tax rate will attract more businesses, when in fact I believe the formula for attracting more businesses is a great place to live, talented pool of skilled and educated employees, and an excellent access to customers and suppliers. Worcester fits this bill.
Thank you. And now Bill Coleman, if you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
You know, it's amazing when everybody gets up here and they say, the elected officials will say, I voted the lowest residential tax rate. But the reality is, they vote the lowest residential tax rate, your property is assessed more and more, and you end up paying more money in taxes. You know, where's the reality on that? Maybe we should look at what is real and what is imagined.
Thank you. Our next set of questions will start with Christian King, and it will revolve around school buildings. A reminder, you will each have 1 minute, and then Christian, you'll have a 30-second rebuttal. The question: Worcester Public Schools manages 62 public facilities, with only a handful being built or substantially renovated in the last 15 years. As the buildings age, needs continue to increase, but so do construction costs. How should Worcester Public Schools identify, plan, prioritize, and fund the next wave of projects? Christian, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I think simply tiering. There's a strategic plan that was in place some time ago. I believe it's currently being updated, either in 2017 or 2018. They began that process, and I think we're a little bit late in updating that. You know, in terms of the tiering, we know that we have close to 2,000 new units in the downtown Canal District area. 2,000. Those are in North High and Worcester East Middles districts. I propose that we have to figure out, do we need additional schools? How are we going to accommodate these young people? I've called for a projective analysis from the city of Worcester on how our population growth is going to impact our hospitals, our schools, our traffic. We need to be forward-thinking on this, and we also have the Fair Share Amendment that I supported that is bringing money back to the cities for this very reason.
Joseph Petty, you have the first response.
Yeah, this is an important question. Currently, right now, I have the manager and the superintendent, myself, those two meet on a regular basis, looking at what the needs of the Worcester Public Schools infrastructure are going to be now and in the future. And we've come a long ways. We've invested in accelerated repair program, about $70 to $80 million, which is windows, boilers, and roofs. But we're going to need more. And we need to advocate with the MSBA and the state for changes, which this year they did. They're giving more money, increased the cap to give more districts more money from $900 million to over $1 billion. They've also just increased the per cost share of square footage from $390 to over $550, which is going to make a huge difference, and which is going to help us as a community to really invest in our schools. But we need a plan. The plan is already in place. The manager and superintendent are working on a regular basis to ensure that the school needs are met in the future.
Thank you. Donna Colorio, 1 minute.
Thank you. So this is an important question. I agree. As a former school committee member, I know it's very difficult to put what's a priority and what's not a priority. There's many needs in the schools. As a city councilor, we've supported the construction of new schools and maintenance of schools whenever we, are asked to put more money, or someone needs a roof or they need boilers and stuff like that. We're always willing to listen. So the other thing too that I find very interesting, and that will be coming up in the next year, will be now that we have district school committee members, it'll be interesting to see if each school committee member will advocate for their district, and it'll become a little bit more competitive when it comes to what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. But I look forward to the new exciting plans of the new schools that will be built in things to come. Thank you.
Bill Coleman, 1 minute.
I'm good.
We'll move on to Guillermo Creamer.
All right. So I'm a product of Elm Park Community School. I attended the school about 24 years ago, and I have a really solid relationship with my first grade and kindergarten teacher there. Visiting the classroom is a direct flashback because nothing has changed. We are not asking our teachers what they need. We are not asking our students what they need. And so we need to make sure, the reality here is that we don't have the money to rebuild 62 schools. But we have to be smart about it, because the thing that we need to grasp is the fact that our school system is primarily students of minority, our students of color, our students that need the resources the most. And so I want to make sure that we're looking at state and federal funding and maximizing that, because our school system needs to ensure that we have safe buildings, but we have a quality education system within all those buildings as well.
Thank you. Christian King, you have 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. We know that the MSBA funding is impacting the Doherty construction. We're going to save some money there. The acceleration repair has been reinstated. We need more social workers. We need more nurses and psychologists to keep our kids safe and recovering from trauma. I'm committed to making sure our educators have everything that they need, and I'm committed to looking at our free cash and determining how much additional funds we're going to provide over the funding formula as we did in years past.
The next question concerns housing, and Joseph Petty will be the first one to answer. With its largest population ever, Worcester is facing a housing shortage. While new units continue to come online, there remains a high level of need for housing of all types. How would you as mayor ensure more housing of all kinds continue to be built? How would you build consensus among your fellow councilors? 1 minute.
This is the biggest challenge facing every city, probably in America, and definitely here in the city of Worcester in the state of Massachusetts, and building all types of housing, working with the developers to come here in the city of Worcester, making sure that we have affordable programs in place. We have the inclusionary zoning currently right now that's helpful in the future. We have the trust fund. We have over $14 million in the trust fund, which has been spent down, which helps developers come in and build affordable housing. We have accessory dwelling units we're talking about right now, and the state had just, I think, the governor has just proposed the same thing that the city of Worcester was well ahead of the curve on. That we're going to have accessory dwelling units here in the city of Worcester, making the housing needs even smaller than what they are now. But we need to build more housing. The state should have done this 20 years ago. We have 1,500 apartments coming online here in the city of Worcester, and we need more. We just need more. We have 113 units for the unhoused people. They'll go into the next stage, which we're waiting for because of funding issues, but it should be announced pretty soon.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Donna Calorio.
We will never catch up with the demands of affordable housing. As we know, Worcester exceeds the 10% threshold limit by approximately 2,500 units. Only 46 of the 351 communities have met the 10% threshold in 48 years. Our state delegation needs to step up and work with the surrounding communities to expand housing affordable and market rate. The total housing units in Worcester are 78,000. 92% are occupied, leaving almost 6,000 unoccupied. One suggestion would be to identify and work with landlords to help renovate these units to put back on the rental registry. This could be less costly than building new units. Right now, we have approximately 1,500 units under construction in the Canal, Downtown, and Shrewsbury Street District, affordable and market rates. We don't know what their impact will be on schools and traffic. Thank you.
And Guillermo Kramer.
I think one of the things that we often forget to talk about when we're talking about housing is who are we building housing for? And what I mean by that is a lot of our housing tends to be cookie cutter and isn't actually built for families. It's not built with 2 bathrooms where you have a family of 3 or 4 kids. You know, we have these 2 bedrooms or 1 bedrooms that are coming online that are astronomical rates, but we don't have many housing communities coming online. We don't have many neighborhoods that are coming online. And so we need to make sure that when we're building these areas, we're building them as places where families are going to live. The next time I see a unit come online, I want to see it on top of a grocery store. I want us to be creative with how we are expanding the city of Worcester, and we are building it to cater for the future of the families that are going to be living here. That's the perspective that I have when it comes to building more housing.
Bill Coleman.
The whole question on housing, you know, we know that there's an influx of a lot of people coming to Worcester, coming to central Massachusetts, coming to Massachusetts in general, because we're a great place to be. Our educational system is really, and people want that. But the one thing that I think we all need to do is the city needs to do a housing audit, a land audit. How much land do we really have to build housing? What does housing look like in the future? Do we need senior housing? Do we need a commitment on public housing? Do we need a commitment on housing that looks a little bit different than it did in the past? So I think a land audit of what's available for building houses and a priority for local people to own that land so they could build houses on.
Christian King.
Thank you. As a frontline social worker, I know firsthand the importance of stable housing, stable, affordable housing, so you can address life's challenges, lift yourself up, support your family, support your elders supporting the young folks. That's where we have to go. You know, right now it costs $65,000 for a single parent to have a 2-bedroom apartment in the city of Worcester. For our essential workers who are receiving minimum wage, you have to work 80 hours a week to afford that. I'm very proud to have championed inclusionary zoning, which means you have more affordable housing options. I voted for more housing options. Mayor Petty and Donna Colorio voted for less affordable apartments and housing in the middle of a housing crisis. That's the valued, principled leadership that I bring to the table. I always center our people and our families first.
And 30-second rebuttal, Joseph Petty.
Sure. And regarding inclusionary zoning is that we made the right decision on that to make it work. It needed 8 votes to get something passed. And it actually works at 60%. Most towns say if you went lower on the AMI, developers wouldn't come here. Now, development has slowed down for a number of reasons to come in here in the city of Worcester since we've passed that. But Worcester also has a number of great programs going on for helping people, whether it be a $25,000 down payment assistance program, whether it helping landlords who want to give people who qualify cheaper rent at a long period of time of $15,000 a year in tax rebate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be posed first to Donna Colorio. It's relating school committee functions. The Worcester School Committee is transitioning to district representation. As the first mayor to chair this new model, how would you set precedent for how this school committee functions? 1 minute.
Interesting question. How would, as a mayor, right? Can you repeat that part of it?
As first mayor to chair this new model, how would you set precedent for how this school committee functions?
Well, we do that on the city council right now, too. We have district councilors, and we have at-large councilors. So I think we would run it the same way. It's going to be interesting because, as I mentioned before, district councilors represent their district, and they go very heavy into, advocating for certain things to be done in their district, schools, sidewalks, streets. So I assume that the district school committee members would do the same. So I find that it will be in a similar model to what we're doing now on the city council, and I would look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. First response for Joseph Petty.
This is an important issue that I voted on to expand the school committee into districts. I think it's important to get diversity on the school committee, and that's what reasons why we passed it. And what I would do to make sure that people feel comfortable is really have an onboarding program for the new. We're going to have a bunch of new school committee members on this year. Is that they understand the issues that address the school committee, and also just being respectful to people when you come on the school committee. Let them speak and let them speak their minds without interrupting. It goes a long ways to make sure that people feel welcomed here, that they're part of the process. So any new school committee members need to be part of this process. I'll make sure that happens, make sure we meet with them, see what their interests, line up. We're in the process right now, developing committees, new subcommittees, because we're going to have so many school committee members. Make sure we try to line up what their interests are with the subcommittee that they want to be on, which I did in the last election. I made sure I met with all the school committee members to make sure they got what they were interested in, and I succeeded on every single one of them.
Thank you. Next response, Guillermo Kramer.
So I think I'm going to say something that we're all thinking. Look, the reality here is that, unfortunately, the way that the school committee maps were drawn, it's confusing. And I think that that's something that we need to own. And I think that that's the first thing that we're going to have to do when we get in there and we're chairing the school committee, is making sure that that confusion kind of goes away. What I am excited about, though, is the fact that what Councilor Caloria was alluding to, our district councilors really do serve the people of that district. I'm hopeful that district school committee members will also be doing that. And so they are really going to be in the community, understanding what that community needs. The point of splitting it this way was to ensure that everyone's voice was being heard. Because the reality is, and I'm going to be blunt, it seemed like the west side was being heard and not the rest of the city. And so we need to make sure that the rest of the city is also included in these conversations. So I am looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to strong voices from our district school committee members.
Thank you. Bill Coleman.
Well, we got to work with what we have, or it's already established. What it would happen under my tenure is we would have a lot of community meetings in the community, in engagement, so that these new city school committee members will be meeting, in different places. I mean, we have community meetings in different places for the city council. You would see a tremendous amount more of community meetings so that the public can be engaged at different times in different ways. So that's what you're going to get from me.
Christian King.
Thank you. As chair of municipal operations and legislative affairs, I led on this. I had community meetings in every single district, educating and talking about and formulating actually what the structure would look like. The reason that the lines are drawn as they are is because we need to ensure that we had at least two minority or three minority-majority districts. And that's extremely important for representation. This will be the most diverse school committee in the history of Worcester. We already have it just based on the three folks who don't have an opponent. In terms of how we deal with assignment, it's based on skill set, it's based on needs of each particular district, and it's not based on favors. It's simply based on how we will best move our schools forward. We have a lot of school committee members who are informed and knowledgeable and have done a great deal of work. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to acknowledge their skill set and use them to move our educators and our students forward.
Thank you. And rebuttal offered to Donna Calorio. Oh, just a rebuttal offered to Donna Calorio?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say, I would advocate for more training for the new school committee members, also have more community meetings. But the important thing, too, I think that's going to happen, which I'm very excited about, is that I think our school committee members will be more active in the community just in general. They'll be going to the community meetings, they'll be going to a lot of things, because it's not as overwhelming as, 52 meetings in the city. There'll be more like 10 or 15. Thank you.
We're going to move on to our next question, and the first responder will be Guillermo Creamer. The question is around economic development. Question: Worcester has been building a lot of economic development momentum. How would you work to maintain this momentum? If you were elected mayor next for economic development, what would be next for economic development in Worcester if you're elected mayor? 1 minute.
Thanks for the question. And I think this is where the Worcester Renaissance really comes into play. And one of the things that I have said is that the Worcester Renaissance hasn't been for all, and it's time to make sure that it is. When it comes to economic development, you have to look at it from a different approach, from various approaches. You have to look at it from the folks that live here in Worcester. You have to look at it from folks who we are attracting to come into Worcester. And we also have to look at it for the young people that are studying here in Worcester and retaining their talent. I think we are a city that has a lot of college campuses, and we don't usually retain that talent. And so when I think of the next chapter of economic development, I want to ensure that we are retaining that talent. But I also want to make sure that we are looking at the residents of the city of Worcester and offering them the opportunity to also work here. Because we should be a city where you work, where you play, and where you live. And so to me, that's the type of economic development I'll be looking for.
Our next responder is Bill Coleman.
Mr. Kramer, you hit a home run on that. I agree with everything he just said. Where you work, where you play, where you live. But opportunity has to be a capital O in the city of Worcester. We talk about this. I came here as a student 50 years ago, and I thought I'd be here for a few years and then leave and go and somewhere else. I'm still here, still trying, still committed, and I want to be a part of that success rate that impassions everybody in this city to feel that they get a fair shot at opportunity in this community.
Our next responder is Christian King.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the inclusionary zoning vote. The planning board unanimously supported a more expansive opportunity for affordable housing. As vice chairman of economic development, the majority of us voted it out to city council for more affordable housing. Mayor Petty and Donna Clorio voted for less affordable housing. My strategy is, once again, I filed orders asking for a feasibility study so we can know exactly what is the affordability for our demographics here in the city. That's coming. It's on the way. It's worked. I call for a gentrification mitigation plan where we synthesize and bring together all the different things we're doing with housing, because we are doing some things with housing and affordable housing, partnering with our private sector, partnering with our state. And only recently has the mayor got on board with the inclusionary zoning and requiring things on a municipal level. But we need to have local jobs, responsible developers. And right now, we need to make sure that our small and mid-sized businesses have some sort of tax relief.
Thank you. Our next responder is Donna Calorio.
This is an exciting time to be part of the growth in Worcester. We have moved from manufacturing, when my grandparents were alive, in industrial city, to major healthcare, education, and biotech city with many arts and entertainment venues. I believe in supporting Worcester's economic development in a variety of ways, reducing as many regulations as possible for small businesses, making the city an affordable, safe place to live and invest in businesses, and provide plenty of parking and maintaining our roads and sidewalks. Thank you.
Joseph Petty.
And the question is regarding economic development, and this has been key to the city of Worcester. You need economic development in order to pay all the bills and all the programs, all the schools that we want to build. You need businesses coming here in the city of Worcester. And to get this done, you got to work collaboratively together with the state, with the neighborhoods. We have some great projects coming on, whether it be biotech, whether it be the healthcare industry. Look at what we're doing with Wuxi up in the neighborhood, in the Belmont Street neighborhood. That's a project I will make sure that goes through, and it will go through, because again, we worked collaboratively together as a community to get that project in there. St. Cobain, big project, big project. It's going to take several years to get done, but it's going to be a game changer for the city of Worcester, creating pad-ready sites which we don't have now, for businesses to come here in order to open their business here in the city of Worcester. This needs to be done. But again, it's about working collaboratively together, making sure everyone is, but would be the state partner, the state delegation. You need the state delegation, you need the congressman, you need the federal senators in order to get things done here in the city of Worcester. And that's where I've come in handy, is working collaboratively
We
together.
have to leave it there. And Guillermo Kumar, a 30-second rebuttal.
Sure. I think one of the things, too, that we neglect to talk about when it comes to economic development are some of the great things that are happening currently in the city. I'm thinking of Midtown Mall. I'm thinking at the public market. Those are places where young entrepreneurs are truly thriving. And those are the types of things that we as a city should be celebrating and ensuring that we are promoting them even more. That's the type of economic development that I'm looking for, because I want to make sure that our city has young residents that are thriving. Too many of our residents are just surviving.
Okay, our next question is around school safety. First to respond will be Joseph Petty. The question is, Worcester Public Schools is engaged in a safety audit which will provide a comprehensive review of safety plans and policies. Do you support the current school safety strategy, and what would you like to see from the safety audit?
Sure. The safety audit should be coming hopefully in the next few months to the city of Worcester. And safety has been a major concern of the school committee, myself, and we've implemented a lot of different programs here in the city of Worcester. We have wraparound coordinators that are in the schools. We have counselors in the schools. We actually have a wellness room. Instead of just throwing the student out of the school, we have a wellness room where they stay in the Worcester Public Schools, which makes a big difference. We have social emotional learning group here in the schools that are looking at the social emotional of every single student who needs it. And also we have a dean of students now in each of our high schools. And that makes a big difference. We have a dean of students. And they go out and they're in the school every day, walking the corridors, making sure the students are where they are, making sure they have all their needs are met. If they have any issues, they have a friend that they can go to and make sure that that student is taken care of. But the safety of the school hasn't been better this year than it has in the past. I'm really very comfortable.
Thank you. Christian King next.
You know, I certainly appreciate the work that's been done in regards to school safety. I'm a frontline social worker for almost 30 years. I continue to this day to work within those public schools, in those alternative schools, on a daily basis, helping educators, children, and families navigate their way to create a conducive learning environment. That being said, you know, I rolled up my sleeves and I went to work. I actually worked on the current safety plan. I work with Worcester Public Schools. I work with the chief of police. I work with the police representative. I work with, Eric Batista specifically, to make sure our kids are safe. And again, we have folks that experience trauma in our schools. We need to make sure that they continue to be educated. We need more social workers, nurses, school psychologists, and educators need support. And we really have to take a look at that. Budget-wise, we know that the research shows that when kids are safe, they're less likely to be acting out and be pro. Thank you.
Next will be Bill Coleman.
As a 25-year-plus educator, I'm retired now. You know, having taught in public schools, having taught at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and having taught in North High School. When I retired, I taught at North High School, for a bit. And I've never met a kid that didn't want to learn. I never met when I was at North High School, we had police in the building, and I saw the relationship between police and students. It was positive. I saw a lot of kids go crazy and go nuts too, but I also knew that those kids looked for leadership, and sometimes just holding somebody accountable for their for their actions is enough to make kids say, "I'm here to learn too." So, I think what we're doing, we're challenged by what's happening in our school, but it's also reflective to what's happening in society. Thank you.
Next will be Guillermo Creamer.
So I think safety is an umbrella term. You know, I think when we think about what schools are learning centers. Schools are the place where most kids go for meals. Schools are the place where some kids go for warmth. That's the type of lens we need to be looking at when we're looking at school safety. And the reality here is that it's not just about ensuring that they're safe during the day, but it's ensuring that the teachers have the resources that they need to keep their classroom safe, in a safe environment, in a place where their students can thrive. You know, as I've already mentioned, I visit my first grade teacher and kindergarten teacher quite often, and it's unfortunate to hear that they have rat pellets, that they have, unfortunately, their window has been stuck for years. You know, a lot of these audits, they take too long. And so we have to figure out, how are we going to start expediting this? Because our students don't deserve that. Our students and our teachers need to ensure that we are committed to them. And that starts by actually moving the needle forward.
And next will be Donna Colorio.
Thank you. I've always supported the police in the schools, and ever since I've been on the school committee, and I haven't changed my position. What I think we need to focus on is the mental health issues. And when I say the mental health issues, I think we need to get to the root of what really is the problem and what are these kids truly experiencing. Thus, I think we need to bring the parents on board more and really have a more holistic approach to things. Because I think since the COVID hit, a lot of kids felt isolated and depressed, and we've had a rise in a lot of mental health issues and suicides, and I think we really need to look at this firsthand. Thank you.
Joseph Petty, 30-second rebuttal.
Sure, and this year I'm more confident than ever in the Worcester Public Schools. And I was instrumental in bringing Rachel Monterez as a new superintendent and giving her the funding that she needs and put the infrastructure in place in the schools to make sure our kids have a good chance to learn, they feel safe, and we're going to continue that more. You remember, this is the first year. This is the first year. It's only going to get better, and you can see the atmosphere in the Worcester Public Schools dramatically change. The teachers and the educators, the paraeducators, we're all working cooperatively together with the administration to make sure our kids are well educated and feel safe.
All right, our next question is on police accountability. It'll be posed first to Donna Colorio. The question is, with multiple investigations into the Worcester Police Department and the transition to a new chief of police, do you feel that there are specific policies needed to ensure accountability at the Worcester Police Department?
So, you know, we talk about the whole Department of Justice investigation into the police department, and some of these are allegations of abuse, harassment, and bullying, which I think is handled through the human resources, not the city council. The city council doesn't get involved in individual personal issues. The HR policy should be reviewed to make sure we're in line with the state and federal EEO guidelines. This has to be fair and equitable treatment of all with an investigatory process that is fair to all. Look into the whistleblowing policy also, that would ensure employees are comfortable coming forward without fear or reprieve. From my understanding from similar types of investigations like the one in Springfield, the DOJ comes out with recommendations. The city manager, law department, human rights, and required members within the police department will review the recommendations, and I will ask for a report as to which recommendations should be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. And first response to Guillermo Creamer.
I've had the privilege of serving on the Human Rights Commission for a couple of years now. For those of you that don't know, the Human Rights Commission has a very intimate relationship with the Worcester Police Department, and I'm proud of that. And so we've been able to really work on an almost quarterly basis to really talk about what they're doing and talk about the issues that they have. We sat down with the interim chief and we asked them questions, and one of the first questions I asked was, let's talk about police culture, because I think that's where it starts. I took a ride along last week with WPD. I had a tour of the facilities, and the reality is that that's the type of leadership that I want to lead with, is understanding and experiencing firsthand what our first responders are going through. I think it's important for us as leaders to ensure that we are understanding and trying to see through their lens what they are going through. But I made it very clear to the interim chief. The fact that we are under a DOJ investigation is not something that we should be proud of. And I want to make sure that our leadership reflects the fact that we have to move our city forward no matter what the recommendations are.
Thank you. Next, Joseph Petty.
To acknowledge those lawsuits haven't been good for the city of Worcester, but it's actually, you got to answer the question, what are you doing to make sure that the police department's going in the right direction? Now, working with the black families together, and the chief, at that time, a few years ago, we came with some accountability standards that would need to be enforced. We're going to finish up the citywide, the racial equity audit in the Worcester Police Department should be coming out by the end of the year to address racial equity. Also, the Chiefs Advisory Council we have, which will come into effect after the equity audit comes out. We've established a division of investigation at City Hall, which gives people the opportunity to file complaints within City Hall or go to the police department or file them online. Also, we just hired a chief diversity officer. We're putting the Worcester Police into training when it comes to structural racism and understand the issues associated with that. So we're moving forward. We have a chief, the acting chief of police right now is holding the membership, his police officers accountable, and also becoming more transparent. He's putting up the police reports online, so I think you're going to see the beginning of a lot of great things coming from this new chief right now.
Thank you. Next response, Christian King.
Thank you. As mayor, I'll make sure that we work together to enact the recommendations of the Department of Justice investigation. There's certainly a lot of challenges with our police department. However, there's also a lot of things they do really well. They've saved lives. They've protected people. They've sacrificed their own lives. And there's also concerns. And I think the challenge is that with regards to those concerns, as a regional vice president of my union, I'm familiar with procedure and operations. We want to see what the changes are operationally in terms of policies when these lawsuits go away. We want to see where the improvements lie. And those equity audits, I brought those with black families together to the mayor and to the city manager. I filed accompanying orders on the floor to make sure that we have that look. In addition to that, I've worked with Chief Diversity Officer of Worcester Police Department to recruit and retain a diverse police force.
Thank you. Next opportunity to respond will be Bill Coleman.
You know, looking at the history of the Worcester Police Department since the 70s, you know, it's been spotty. We had, for 24 years, 2 black police officers, very qualified, passed all the tests, won everything, had a lawsuit against the city. Sadly, one of the police officers died in the midst of that lawsuit. And nothing is talking about the history of struggle that has happened in the police department. It wasn't until 1948 that we hired our first black police officers in the city of Worcester. And then now, you know, I want to see diversity within the ranks, you know, the higher ranks. And I think the next couple of classes, we need to do something to make sure that we have a growing diversity of qualified people leading the Worcester Police Department.
Thank you. And Donna Colorio, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I believe that all new members should be encouraged to do the ride-along, as Guillermo mentioned. I did, and it was very enlightening. I do support the new interim police chief, and I look forward to the collaboration relationship with the police department. Thank you.
Our next question will be about charter reform, and Christian King will be our first responder. The question of charter reform has been broached this election season. Do you support charter reform? If so, why? Christian, 1 minute.
Sure. I think our form of government can work better. I think that what we have here in Worcester is we have a city council, and we're required to provide oversight and accountability for the city manager. Unfortunately, sometimes that becomes a challenge. You know, in terms of strong mayor or charter reform, we absolutely need to take a look at that. I'm supportive of taking a vote and putting it on the ballot and letting the people decide where we want to go. You know, I want to say that, you know, one of the challenges are we have a city manager that has to take care of 11 city councilors. That's a challenge in and of itself. But what people want is accountability. Right now, when there's an issue, you see the finger pointing like this. One's pointing at the manager, the council's pointing at the manager might be pointing back. And what they're looking for is elected accountability, and we can achieve that through charter reform.
Guillermo Creamer, next responder.
I think it's no secret that I have been very vocal about this, and I'm proud of that. I think the reality here is that charter reform opens the door to understanding what more we can do as a city. I think our residents deserve full-time city councilors. I think our residents deserve to have leadership that is elected. This isn't about our city manager. This is about the form of government that we have as a city. We are the second largest city in New England, but we act like a town. And I think that that's something that we need to be very blunt about. Now, I'm sure you're going to hear that the city manager form works by some of those up here, but the reality here is that I think it's time for us to push the agenda. I think in order for Worcester to take on its next chapter, we have to make sure that we're talking about charter reform. And so I am excited to spearhead that. And on day one, I will say that I will be pushing for charter reform because that's what I believe we need to do as a city.
Our next responder is Joseph Petty.
Well, it'd be interesting. It's been almost 40 years since we had looked at the charter. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You can open up the charter with the Charter Commission. The Charter Commission is that people are elected to this commission by the people of Worcester, and you go through each part of the charter. And there's a lot of things in that charter that I think people would like to see changed, whether it be a strong mayor or sticking with the city manager form of government. But there's a lot of other items in that charter that need to be looked at. I think government really works based on the people in government. I don't care if you have a strong mayor or have a city manager form of government. I've worked collaboratively with the previous three city managers, the two previous city managers and the current one now. And that's why the city is succeeding so well. You go back into the 80s and 90s, nobody knew who the leader was. Everybody was battling with each other, and nothing really got done. But things are getting done in the last 10 years here in the city of Worcester. I think it's because the right people are in the right spots. Thank you.
Donna Colorio.
Thank you. I believe that our system works well. As a growing city, we may want to look at the expansion of the district councilors. But one of the things we look at, if we are going to elect a strong mayor, it's a political position. It's not a position that is looked at as what is on your resume. It's how much you can raise money and what you can do. So it becomes a political position, not a financial position. So I'm very much opposed to that. So I say, why should we fix something that's working? And I think it's working well. Thank you.
Christian King, 30-second rebuttal.
Okay.
Bill Coleman, I'm sorry. You have 1 minute.
I'm a very patient man.
Bill Coleman, you have 1 minute. My apologies.
Okay, it's all right. In 1948, we went from a board of aldermen with a common council of 39 members, and we voted in 1948 to go to a Plan E form of government. We have a hybrid form of government right now. The one thing that I would look at is we can always have conversations about our form of government. We could either do a home rule petition if we wanted to open up the discussions, or we could do something to go out and collect 15,000 signatures to put something on the ballot to create a charter commission. But the one thing that nobody's talking about up here that I would like to see discussed in the charter, if we did, is term limits. Give somebody a chance to do something else on this council. Thank you.
Now, Christian, 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. I'm proud to have been part of all the good things that have happened in this city over the last 8 years. I will say that, we can do better. I will also say that we can provide more oversight. We just talked about the police and how you assign committees. I think we can do better with all of that. I look forward to having those discussions moving forward.
Okay, the next question concerns student performance, and Guillermo Kramer, you're going to have the first opportunity to respond. Many student performance measures remain below pre-pandemic levels. How can the school committee and City of Worcester support efforts to improve academic outcomes?
Great question. You're right. You know, the reality here is that what happened with COVID impacted us in many different ways, and our students particularly are suffering the most. We have a lot of students that are still recovering and some that have not recovered from what the social skills they lost were and the academic skills. Ultimately, one of the things I think that is being pushed in the state, and I do support, is the reality that MCAS should not be a graduation requirement. That's something that we're going to hear. That's something that some folks will consider and something that some folks don't want to see. But I think that that's where we start. Ultimately, too, one of the things that we need to start doing is we need to start having the conversation about what it means to be successful without going to college. Not all of our students are going to go to college, and that's okay. And so we have to prepare our students for life. And I think that that's the type of lens that we need to start putting into our schools, because it's more than just college.
Next, Bill Coleman.
One, as a member of the Massachusetts Teachers Association, a retired member, I went to the State House to talk about the Student Opportunity Act as well as the graduation requirement for MCAS and how it should be eliminated. We need to allow our teachers to have the freedom to teach, not to teach to the test. And what we've seen is that students are MCAS is a failure. We spend $90 million a year testing rather than putting educators in the classroom and having opportunities for students to learn on their own. We're a great group of smart students out there. We just need to create an environment for them to learn well and to succeed through graduation without this requirement. So that along with what $100 million coming to our public educational school system from the Student Opportunity Act is what we have to look forward to.
Next, Donna Calorio.
Thank you. As a former educator at Quinsigamond Community College in sociology and psychology, I feel blessed that I've never had to implement any kind of standardized testing. I have opposed the MCAS since the day I was on the school committee. I lobbied at the State House, and I say, let the teachers teach. Enough is enough. Because you know what? I have no problem using tests to evaluate reading levels or math levels, but using it as a graduation requirement is absolutely insane. Thank you.
Next, Christian King.
Just repeat the question, please.
Sure. Many student performance measures remain below pre-pandemic levels. How can the school committee and the City of Worcester support efforts to improve academic outcomes?
Sure. I think the first thing is to listen, learn, and then lead. Listen to our students, listen to the community, listen to our educators, listen to each other as elected school committee members or city councilors. You know, I agree that MCAS should not prevent graduation. We have to provide a conducive learning environment by making sure we have more social workers, nurses, and psychologists to have that social emotional learning occurring. I don't think it should matter where you live. We have to have equitable resources for our schools. And with the Student Opportunity Act, I was proud to have advocated on Beacon Hill for that. Also standing for the Fair Share Amendment will provide additional money so we can look at that achievement gap. We have to provide more resources. There's only so much money in the vault. There's only so much money that we can provide. But it's really about, you know, learning and moving in a way that uplifts our students, all of them.
Joseph Petty.
This is not about the enhanced educational standards, which we are currently doing right now, but it's also looking at each student, whether it be on the city side or on the school side. And we're putting an infrastructure in place. COVID-19, I lived that through the students, and I seen what happened, had a detrimental effect, and it still does today in the Worcester Public Schools and on a statewide and national level. But it's also providing those services that we talked about earlier. Now, do we have the wraparound coordinators? Do we have the social emotional learning part of this. Do we have the family engagement, which we're doing too? The superintendent has put a lot of infrastructure in place to look at the whole student, to make sure that student, and maybe even the family, we have the Youth Violence Prevention Group on the city side that takes and looks at each student in the families to make sure they're getting the services that they need in order to succeed here in the city of Worcester. And also when it comes to MCAS, I'm done with the MCAS. I'm just done with the MCAS. The MCAS needs to go, but you need some testing, but it shouldn't be a graduation requirement. It puts a lot of stress on students right now.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And Guillermo Creamer, 30 seconds.
I'm grateful to hear that all of us up here want to see the MCAS go, and I think that that's the direction we're going to be heading in, and I'm really excited about that. My big thing here is that we have to make sure that we are educating our students and preparing them for life. I think that we are not doing that yet. I think our students need us to teach them more than just testing skills, more than just skills to go to college, but it goes beyond that. Our vocational schools are great. We have to keep pushing those, and so my hope is that we really lean towards that. Thank you.
And our final question before we go to closing statements. This question is around Worcester Public Schools strategic plan and will first be posed to Bill Coleman. The question is, the Worcester Public Schools is engaging in an update to its strategic plan. What are your priorities for the update? How do you plan to measure its implementation?
One, counting on our new superintendent, who has been unprecedentedly welcomed in this community, to look for that leadership. I think what the community is going to look for is from leadership from the mayor, from the city council, and school committee members as to what we want our future to be within our public school system. We know we have a growing population that's going to come. We know we have people coming from all over the world, and how are we going to accommodate these people? And to not only to accommodate, but how are we going to make sure that everybody gets along and gets, all the languages and all the different cultures work well together in the school system. So I'd say some leadership statements that would be coming out with a mission statement from our elected officials working with our administration.
Thank you. And the first response for Donna Colorio.
Thank you. My goals would be third grade reading, math readiness, building safety, buildings being safe, health and wellness, and college and career readiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Christian King.
Thank you. Given my union background and organizational background, what I'd like to see in the strategic planning is really looking at its implementation. That's where the challenges come from. I think that the schools need to do a little bit more partnering on the city side with the council and the city manager as well when necessary. But would like to see timelines and actionable items that are where there's oversight. I think the committees are there. I think the personnel is currently there. And I think in the new school committee, they'll be able to do that as well. I want to say also that vocational opportunities is something that's extremely important in our schools. I've mentioned a lot of the other things with social emotional learning. My daughter who attends dual language program over at Chandler Magnet. We know that English language learners need to make sure we have those options. And also I think it's very important that we get that plan for our schools, the maintenance in our facilities as we move forward.
Thank you. Joseph Petty.
Yeah, strategic plan is very important. I was instrumental in the first strategic plan we did several years ago. It only works when you have community input. Right now, this is in governance to review what the strategic plan will be, and it involves a number of community members who was appointed to that committee to review the plan, but it has to be also associated with the evaluation process and the goals of the superintendent to make it all work. Because there's a number of demands on us teachers, and the teachers need to be part of this process, the parents need to be part of this process, and the school community is part of this process. And I'm looking forward to the report come out of governance under Laura Clancy, who's going to do a great job, bring the strategic plan back to the city of Worcester.
Guillermo Kramer.
So I think for me, it's about what the student and teacher priorities are. You know, I think parents obviously should have an input as well, but to me, it's about those that are in the classroom. They are the ones that are learning, they are the ones that are sharing the space, and they are the ones that are excelling. And so we have to make sure that we're taking that into consideration. You know, I'm really grateful that we have a lot of intentionality coming out of our superintendent. We have to make sure that we remind ourselves that our school system serves a predominantly diverse student body, but that also includes the fact that the majority of our students are English second language learners. And so that's what we have to make sure that we're looking at whenever we think of what our strategic plan is going to be for our schools. So this goes beyond the classroom. This goes with ensuring that our communities feel that they have input. And so that's where I want to see us head.
And 30 seconds rebuttal, Bill Coleman.
I'm good.
We are now moved to closing statements where everyone will have 1 minute. Our first closing statement will be heard from Joseph Petty.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and to tonight's debate. If one thing that sticks with you tonight is that I have the history and the record to prove that I'm a trustworthy candidate who has shown that I'm a strong leader and get things done. I'm proud of what I've done for the city. I hope to continue to make the residents of this great city proud. I'd like to focus on the basics with the streets, sidewalks, safety, and the environment, but I also want to continue to set the framework for making Worcester a strong, supportive, and welcome community. I believe in what we're doing, what's right for the city. I hope that we can work collaboratively to make sure that happens. I'm going to ask for your vote on November 7th. I want to thank you for your time tonight. I look forward to working with you when it comes to the mental health issue, when it comes to affordability here in the city of Worcester, when it becomes building a new Bronco High School, and also renovating East Middle School. So there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to do going forward here in the city of Worcester. Thank you. And don't forget to vote on November 7th.
Christian King.
You know, I want to just begin by saying that the demographics of this city are changing. The future of this city is changing. I'm the face of that change. When I become mayor of Worcester, I will embody that change. Again, you know, you think about how we're moving forward. Mayor Petty has talked about, you know, not moving backwards, having balance. Well, just a short time ago, Mayor Petty was ready to leave us and go on and do other things. And he was ready and prepared. He wasn't worried about balance or backwards when he was preparing to leave the city in the hands of Donald Colorio. I stand 10 toes down. I don't have 1 foot out the door. I've been committed to this community, to the families here for a very long time as a social worker, as a coach, and as a dad. I humbly ask for your vote in this historic election on November 7th to be the next mayor of Worcester. Thank you.
Guillermo Creamer. Thank you.
I firmly believe that leadership isn't about one person, but about all of us. We have to make sure that we are electing an individual who wants to work collaboratively and who wants to ensure that everyone who's going to be on the council will move our city forward. Tonight, I hope that I've earned at least 1 of your votes, because what I have proven is that I will work with every single person at this table. And for those of you that are here still trying to decide who your mayoral choice will be, here's my commitment to you. It's time to move our city in a broader direction. We have to make sure that we're electing the next generation of leaders. I'm the youngest person up here by over 20 years, and I'm proud of that. And I think that that generational shift is important. So on November 7th, I'm asking for 2 of your votes. But if you give me 1, that'll be okay too. Thank you.
Donna Colorio.
Thank you for hosting this debate tonight. As a lifelong resident of Worcester, I humbly ask for your vote for mayor and city council at large on Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
And Bill Coleman.
You know, Worcester's America, and I believe in America. I believe that this is the greatest country in the world. An opportunity for any person's dream, I firmly believe, is limited to the self-imposed borders of one's imagination. and I consider myself dedicated passionately about the citizens of Worcester, about the community we live in, about central Massachusetts. You know, I had an opportunity many years ago of working in Washington, D.C. as a very young man. I look at, I think of those days of working in Washington with a Senator Ed Brooke, who was the first African-American elected to the United States Senate, walking down the hallway to Senator Kennedy's office, getting things done as a young, energetic person, and having that influence to come back and saying, I want to be a part of this community. Well, it's taken some time, but I asked you on November the 7th to give me one of your votes for City Council at large, and if you'd like to, for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.